We start now. Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brian and Amanda. And today we're going to talk about season 1, hopefully, of 1, episode 8 of The Acolyte. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. We did it. We watched the entire season of The Acolyte. I actually kind of enjoyed this one.
Good. I'm happy to hear that.
After last week's episode, I gotta say I'm surprised that I like this episode as much as I did. But I also I started to expect that I would like it because I wasn't liking most of the rest of it. So I was like, okay, that means that they probably structured this around a really big finale and like a really good, meaty part of the story for that last bit. And everything else was sort of like trying to they're writing around like up to it. And that's pretty much what it felt like.
That's what we got.
Cool.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, honestly, I guess my ratings of this episode might kind of reflect my overall feelings about the whole show. I think I might have been a little unfair about the editing and stuff like that. But overall, I guess I'm not afraid to admit it's a bad show. Like, it's a bad show with a ton of really good stuff that I love, absolutely adore. But it's still poorly made. It's still just badly edited and structured. Like, that's I gotta be honest about that, right?
All I can say is after I'm watching this, I'm like, I want to take all of this, like all of the storyboards, and I want to just cut around different pieces and be like, okay, I want to move this over here and just tighten this up a little bit. And there's a lot of really good pieces and nuggets and like characters and all of this stuff. There's really great elements, but it just doesn't flow together as well as it should. And it's hard to pinpoint one thing. And I think a lot of people have been like, the writing is bad. And I think the writing is bad.
It's easy to overgeneralize, I think.
Right.
Put it on one thing, but there's a lot to it, really. There's a lot of layers. And that's what I enjoyed. I enjoy just, the depth of the characters and how they're a lot more nuanced than most other characters are in Star Wars.
Yeah, I love flawed characters. I love a what's it called? An unreliable narrator. I love the mystery and sort of you're getting different perspectives. And I did kind of expect some type of switch good, bad in some regard. But I think it was pulled off really well by the end. And I had kind of goosebumps at the end when Osha bleeds her kyber crystal and actually kills Soul. I was just like, yes. Actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but
wow.
At a point, she's like, he needs justice or whatever. And then I was like, yes, girl. Let him bury himself in the actual misery and guilt of owning up your mistakes to your superiors. But then when she decided to kill him, I was like, you know what, that works too.
Yikes. You think his death was warranted?
I think it was. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that he would die by the end of it, because I was like, this guy is messed up too many times to still be alive.
I was expecting.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he deserved it necessarily as a character, but I was expecting him to die because he was the only one that heard the word Sith. So I figured it's
he's not
most likely.
Yeah, we knew it's he's not making it off whatever planet he's on. Yeah, he's getting killed. No, I tell you what, while I did not enjoy the writing of the show, I did, like I said, the last couple, I decided to not be as critical. I still have to be with these ratings, but just try to enjoy myself. And I really did love the lightsaber action. I also kind of liked some of the music, like when the two sisters or the same person is fighting herself while she's her sister with herself. Anyway, whatever. And you're fighting and you kind of hear just this almost Wonder Woman-esque Led Zeppelin I'm just like, whatever's going on there. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I mean, it's weird. I wasn't a fan of the outro music that played last week, and whatever that was. But this week, it was fun. I did enjoy the lightsaber choreography. It did make me think a lot of those Chinese films. I'm trying to think of like those Jet Li films where the fighting choreography, like they kind of slow-mo in the air and slow down.
Matrix.
And then he forces the lightsaber with like the wind and like force them across. I'm like, it was cool. I will say I found one thing incredibly annoying though, and it does. I don't know.
Does it rhyme with razzle?
It does not. I did not enjoy. I do believe, at least for me, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I thought first time we've ever seen Darth Plagueis on screen, and then we see Yoda, and for me, I found that incredibly annoying. I'm like, they didn't really serve a place. It's like very much like the end of Obi-Wan, where they're like, all right, how many Easter eggs can we just like can in here? It didn't have a place in the story, and you shoehorned it in, and you weren't going anywhere with it. And it to me feels like a cheap way, and it's what actually made me say I don't ever want to see this show again. Is because it felt like a cheap way to say, all right, this is how we're going to get people like hyped for season 2. If they aren't bought in by now,
they're going to be excited about this part,
Yep, Yoda and Plagueis.
And Plagueis,
yeah. Yep, and we're going to like just bring that in, and people are going to have to want to see more because there's that. And I'm like, you know what? No, you don't deserve that. That was cheap.
You didn't earn it.
It was cheap. You stood on the shoulders of great minds. You had it, you packaged it, and now you're selling it. And you were so focused on whether or not you could, you didn't stop to think whether or not you should. You didn't have something amazing here, and you stood on George Lucas's shoulders. And that to me was very annoying. I'm just like,
yeah.
Leave him
out. I agree about the cameos, especially the Plagueis cameo, because there are so many like hints throughout that it's like there was so much speculation, so much cool theory going on around Plagueis and his connection to Chimere. And then like the cameo itself was just, like you said, shoehorned in. I felt like they added that in this week because they read fan theories that were way better than anything they had going. And apparently Leslie Headland said in an interview that was planned the whole time. So like, I'm sure I'll believe that, but like, it's still like the rest of the episode, I was like, all right, we're going to see some cool stuff, some more lore drops. We're going to finally get some concrete answers to all these awesome things. And that was the biggest letdown to me, was every time I would expect Plagueis to come around the corner, it was just like Basil, who makes absolutely no sense. I have no idea what's going on inside his head at any point. And it's just Basil. No, I'm not a
Basil was the I'm gonna say Basil is the worst character of the show. They got way too much screen time for no purpose whatsoever. Are we ready to talk about that? Are we ready to really dive into that? Because that's what upsets me the most about this show is this character that just sniffs the air and
rips cords out of the wall. And
apparently he's supposed to be tracking Osha or May or Osha, whichever one, right? But like, it doesn't ever really come to anything at all, except him ripping out some cords of the ship, which has...
You think he intended to shoot May? You think that's what he's really going to do?
I thought he was trying to communicate with her, just like flip on the comms.
The reality is whatever was trying to be communicated through the screen of that moment was entirely lost. So it's up to us to be like, well, I think Basil like wanted to protect May because you know, like what? That's the most ridiculous thing in my mind. And then at the end, when they're back on Brandok, Master Indara says, hey, we need to create a perimeter of 5 clicks. And then Vernestra, Vernestra, sorry. They need to create a perimeter. And then the very next shot is them following Basil, like all of them in a line. And I'm like,
great perimeter, guys.
Huh? Yeah.
You train these Jedis, Vernestra.
I did. And who's the actor that played that senator? I've seen him in a ton of stuff.
Oh, he was the guy that we all thought was going to be Chimere's master. I don't remember his name. But yeah, the Senate stuff was cool. Do you guys think that that voice you hear over the comm was actually Palpatine's. It sounds exactly like young Sheev Palpatine would sound. That was my impression. Was like,
That's
did they
still like 100.
accidentally?
Is he like 12?
or the show is actually taking place 50 years later and they just lied about when it takes place, maybe because Plagueis' timeline and Kiadi-Mundi's timeline is also kind of, I don't know, that was like weird. Maybe it was just an accident, but that's like a weird accident to have that guy sound exactly like Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, overall, like, what I really want to know is, look, we in total ranked this episode and said it's a 61.47%. Like, I gave it a 72%. Stunningly, I was the highest of any of us here. Amanda gave it a 58 and Brian gave it a 54.4. But that does put the show at, pulling it up here, a 59.49%. Meaning it is indeed the worst of any Star Wars TV show we've rated thus far, below the Clone Wars at 64.55%. But remember, we've only reviewed 2 seasons of the Clone Wars. So my question is, are we getting a second season of The Acolyte?
I honestly really want a second season. No matter how much I didn't like this season overall, I think all those issues are very fixable, and that they are clearly understanding like a lot of our complaints about the other Star Wars shows, like, oh, they rely on nostalgia, the plot twists are forced and they don't lead anywhere, character deaths mean nothing, stabbing doesn't do anything, it's too toned down for little kids, and I think they're doing so many good things in the right directions. You just still have to, do it gooder.
It gooder. No, actually, I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you, Brian. I did not expect myself to want a season 2 of this, but the momentum of the finale and was what I was hoping this whole show was going to bring. And if they are willing to take feedback on like the actual writing, I think there is a lot of good elements that I want to know more about and see again. Like, I'm very interested in Vernestra's, like, her role in covering up and continuing the cycle of like over concealing and protecting the Jedi. That's really interesting to me, and how she's going to basically use even the way that she commands, who is it, May now, into the room at the end. She's like, release the restraints. It was a very Palpatine in a way of like her sort of giving grace to someone that she's needing help to do her dirty work,
Yeah, I love that it sets it up as like this larger onion. We've been kind of diving further into the center of this mystery, and then at the end you reveal like, no, there's something bigger that happened even before then, and there's some shenanigans gonna go down. There's gonna be another confrontation. That could be really cool. I hope it's just not played off. I would much rather see Kamira and Vernestra in live action than just have to read about it,
Yeah.
I'm very good to never see this show again and be done with it.
Even with The Stranger, you didn't. What did you think about like his character? I feel like he was probably the best character in the show, the most that I got.
Yeah. I mean, like, no, and credit to him. I think he played it well as far as acting is concerned, and the way that he carried the dialogue. I don't know. I mean, they've got some sort of like weird Sith love story that
I know. I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I knew. I mean, you've been waiting for something. You've been waiting for something like this since The Last Jedi. And this is like, it's finally happened. Like, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I was kind of wondering if she was going to fall in love with herself and just pull a complete, like, once they like realized like, oh, they're not sisters, they're just the same person. I was wondering if they're going to pull like a Loki, and nope. They're like, turns out they and then I was watching the show with my spouse, and she's like, instead of wiping her mind, what if she stabs her? And I was like, so then the whole time I'm like, she took the lightsaber back. I was like, that would be wild. What if she does that? Like one of those, like, I have committed to the dark side, I'm letting go of ever, like something wild like that you wouldn't expect. And I was like, if she did do that, I'm not gonna lie, like the writers would have had me. Like I would have,
Yeah.
I would have
No,
very much so been like, oh, okay, she's like very unpredictable
Dark
now. Like
side,
this
yeah.
got dark, but no,
I
it stayed in the predictable lane and it did its thing and it wrapped up. So,
I
Which
did
is fine.
find the mind wiping to be a little just
Men in
like
Black.
it's a little too easy of like a story cop out, you
Pop out,
know?
that's the word I wrote down right there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah. I think that would have been a cool like parallel to Kylo Ren as well. Which there's a lot of those. There's a lot of like thematic connections between the sequels and the Acolyte, or specifically the Last Jedi and the Acolyte. So I was kind of expecting something a little bit more dramatic like that. It seems uh, yeah, Kamir. Like the biggest issue is like we want to like Osha's supposed to be the main character. May was the character they actually marketed as the main character, right? This was supposed to be a Sith POV show, and we didn't
Mhm.
really get much of May's perspective as part of this Sith or Knights of Ren, or like that's still not really concretely resolved here. Hello, KG is here. All right.
I emailed KG. I was like, we have news at the end of this show. So people, if you're listening, we have news at the end. So stay around. But yeah, KG's been loyal from like the jump. So I'm
I
like, I'm
hear.
gonna like write an email before we start this show today
Heck yeah.
for
No, I think
all the real ones.
one scene could have gone a long way. Just one scene of May training with Kamir in the first 2 episodes would have been so much more effective than that cheesy little "an acolyte kills the dream" speech, I think. And then cutting the 2 flashback episodes and sprinkling only the important stuff throughout would have given you a little bit more breathing time to develop these relationships like Jackie and Osha, and see the different things that I don't know. Like it seems like I don't even remember Jackie and You're dying now. It's like I don't know. Those things have like retroactively less impact because the show kind of did have a safe ending that forced the characters into their starting positions for a season 2. I think it totally would have been fine if May had died, and just because May was by far the more interesting character over Osha. I think that her acting choices and stuff like that. So I think seeing Osha kind of in that role with Kamir in season 2 would have been a lot more effective without having to balance this kind of weird, like not trusting what's going on the screen because they're the same actor.
I wanted to call out that our rankings, although they are very different, the 3 of us ended up ranking the immersive universe the collectively highest category, which I think is for a number of reasons, which I think even starts off at the beginning when Osha has her head in the mask, and we see the perspective of Kymer / the stranger. He's sort of like in the force with her, trying to physically remove it, but also in the real life, his eyes are like blackened, and that was kind of the first time we'd seen sort of this back and forth of like a force space, which I found really cool.
Yeah, kind of like a world between worlds, world within a world kind of deal going
World
on.
within your mind.
And I gotta know if anyone else had got Octo vibes from Island Plagueis, and like the hole that like that Ray sees, that's just like the pit of darkness.
Oh yeah, I wondered if they were doing that intentionally, like this whole time. Like I wondered also if it was like actually just Octo down the road. Like it's just had like
it
some
did
changes.
say unnamed planet, so
right,
which is also the first time I feel like I've seen that.
They kind of did that in Rogue One when they showed Mustafar, which I really, because every other planet had title cards except Mustafar. It was supposed to be like, oh, where are they? So I think it's mostly just to give that effect, or it could also be Beldemnik, which is the planet that Plagueis was hanging out on, where he got cortosis. That's like the most likely candidate, I think. I know interviews aren't canon, but like if y'all want the the interview spoilers, Leslie Headland did straight up say it's not Octo, but that it is supposed to be like a parallel, like a another thing
that can be fixed in one other show where it's convenient to change that. Yeah, that can be updated anytime they want. No, look, I'm happy this show's done. I'm happy we saw it. Like I said, if it's the show, we gave it an overall, what did I say? Like close to 60%. So,
but it's the worst.
Yeah, so it's a 59.49. So it's actually, you round up, it's still not 60%. But if someone asked me, should I watch this show? I would tell everyone this, like at 59%, what I would say is it is bad, but it's watchable.
Mhm.
You will find moments that are enjoyable. And with that, like, especially that one episode a few episodes back where, I mean, it kind of sucked because the stranger had an amazing sequence of choreography and then he was picked up by a bug. But before that, like, it was pretty cool. And I was kind of enjoying where the show was going. Um, the first episode had me hooked, and I will say, like, I was really interested um, with the fighting sequences and stuff. Like, it wasn't a super strong hook, but I was more interested than a lot of other Star Wars shows out the gate, and they didn't really do much with it. And when I was disengaged, they had that episode where they're on not Octo, and it's the stranger and Osha, and there's decent dialogue. Like, it's passable. And I'm like, all right, we're doing something here. And flashback. And I'm like, my gosh, like you are doing nothing with the momentum you're getting here. Like
Yeah.
you're finally kind of getting somewhere and then nothing. So no, it's watchable. There's certainly enjoyable moments. It did feel like, oh, okay, like this whole thing was just explaining the whole point in this show is to explain how did Anakin come from nothing? And now we get it. You have the stranger who's like, "Wait, you can make babies without having to make babies? Like,
I'm
you can."
interested.
Yeah, I want to know more about this so I can tell my boss, so we can like
Yeah.
we can figure some things out and make our
Right.
own baby. I mean, my boss and I want to make a baby with my boss to be the ultimate baddie in the universe.
Yeah.
That's like we're gonna make a baddie, my boss and I. Let me tell you something. And his name's gonna be we're gonna call him Anakin, and we're gonna give him to a slave because she's gonna take good care of him, and he's gonna learn how to make ships. And because they had to pick, right? They had to pick and choose who the right candidate to raise.
Well,
Like the
no,
Dark Lord of Sith.
actually, well, actually, that's not exactly what happens. It's Plagueis and Sidious are messing around with the fabric of the Force, doing some weird.
Oh, so they were
rituals.
fooling around?
They were definitely fooling around, trying to make something. But the Force itself created Anakin unintentionally as a result of the imbalance that they created. So it was. So there's still a lot of, I guess,
That's
ambiguity.
why you always use protection.
Yeah, that's why the cross guards.
You get that Mr.
Yeah.
Anakin guy who became leader. So that's what this felt like. I was like, all right, you got these witches who came
I
and
wanted
went.
more of the witches. Like
I didn't.
Hopefully, they're still alive. I'm
No,
still putting that theory out
definitely
there.
not. I mean, we still don't even. Oh, I guess the answer to how May survived the fall was she was sucked into
Yeah.
some like
Just like Luke.
hype.
Such a good answer. Such
I
a
know
good
she's like,
answer.
this is how I survived, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Check that off the list.
yeah, I know.
It's
I was
canon.
Like, I was wondering.
It's okay.
It did feel like that. It felt this show did feel very paint by numbers in many respects. But
to what you were saying, Brian, as far as like the producers, etc., kind of taking note of what in general Star Wars fans want to see more, I think this is in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seriously, more nuanced characters, I guess, is kind of the biggest thing. Just I do love Soul still. I don't think he's really as. I know he was kind of. I guess what kind of hurt his character a little bit more in my eyes when he kind of doubled down towards the end. But like, you got to remember, he was trying to tell Osha the truth long before the whole slaughter happened.
I do think he was trying to shoot May, though. He's like, all right, she's gonna get away with this secret.
Soul was trying to shoot May. Oh, in the ship.
Yeah, can't let her go.
So she wouldn't get away with the secret.
Yep, can't let this loose end slip. I gave her a chance. She tased me, so now she's got to die.
I mean, and it's not beyond thinking that Soul would make a hasty, emotional, rash decision like that. I mean,
yeah. And like,
but the fact that Basil like wanted to stop him from that's like so beyond like any character development that we saw.
Yeah, so little Basil was just like, I'm gonna save you.
Hey, G, what did you think of Basil?
Basil.
Is Basil actually like an actual Jedi? I know he like works with the Jedi Order before.
No, he just really hasn't. He's got a strong sniffer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't really know where his motives or intentions lie. I would have loved a little bit, just a little bit of something of someone. One of them could translate, right? Isn't OSHA? Didn't they establish that OSHA could? Who was it? It was Jackie. Yeah.
The beaver sniffer. I don't know if we can call it that, but
Yeah, the whole thing
Who
definitely.
said that? No, listen, KG, you're out of line. That was
reported.
We're going.
He's a beaver and he sniffs things.
All right, y'all. Listen, with that, it is time for some hot takes because we're already getting wild on this show. So let's go. Let's come on. Bring it on, Darth Vader.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
That might be the wildest nickname you can give to anyone, the Beaver Sniffer. Wowza. With that, that is certainly, that may not be a hot take, but that is something. That is something that he poor Basil was dubbed by KG, and that's sticking forever. That is forever his nickname is Beaver Sniffer. So anyway, with that, let's keep this show rolling. Amanda, lay it on us. What's the hot take of the day?
All right. So you all know I love to love Star Wars, and I love to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and our participation trophy. But in the name of Duel of the Ranks, I have to bring a hot take and come with a strong opinion. No specific personal hate to the people credited with this, but I think that the music of the Acolyte was the worst Star Wars music we've gotten. Period. There were just some times, and I don't have enough like evidence right here to bring and present to you and be like, oh, you know that sound when it was like da-da-da-da, or whatever. It just was lackluster in many ways, and also felt like very corny, and in a corny, not campy. I love Star Wars loves campy. It can exist in that realm. But some of the music was just straight like corny, and you had said it earlier this season, but like very WG network television.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I've been thinking that for a while. Yeah, I think I like that there's like parallels, and like some of these like French horn lines will like start like it's the Force theme and then it goes somewhere else, but then they like straight up just use Kylo Ren's theme. It just feels like, no, like if you're gonna have to explain that, it's gonna be like literally just copied. And a lot of the other moments were just like very generic and vague, and just like I don't remember a single theme or motif from it really until like
Kylo's theme was used.
Yeah, other than that one badly used. Like any new original theme was just like
you mean the original song that they came together?
Yeah, whatever the hell that was.
That was cringy. That was cringy, not camp. It was cringe.
Cringe. And
so yeah, I'm doubling down saying that this is the worst Star Wars music in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah. All right. Let's just go ahead and agree. Roger. Although, yeah, using Kylo Ren's theme, it seems like, all right, this guy's gonna get a new apprentice. It's gonna be Osha Pelagus. It's gonna get Osha, and
the stranger looked like Kylo Ren anyway. So
yeah, they're going that direction. So let's just call it. They're gonna tie the originals, the prequels, and the sequels all together in this one show. That's just hoping to.
It's just like Avengers, isn't that the whole plot of it all?
It wants to tie itself together based on lore alone and not merit. So anyway, with that, Brian, what's the hot take, my friend?
Yeah, I've been watching Resistance. I'm not all the way through season 2 again. This is the first time I've rewatched it since like right before Rise of Skywalker. Honestly, it's not that bad. Like you got to approach it.
Is it the one made for preschoolers?
Yeah, no, it's not like that young. That's Young Jedi Adventures. And honestly, that's kind of enjoyable too. I've gotten drunk and watched some Young Jedi Adventures, and it's a hell of a good time. So just depending on your drug of choice, like these shows can be great. I don't know. Resistance overall is like not that bad, and I do think the sequels need a lot more fleshing out. They introduced some really cool First Order characters, and I think it was a cop out that they ended it after 2 seasons. And I think maybe you don't have to bring it back exactly, but bring back the main character. I don't know, maybe have like an animated film release. Let's just repeat the Clone Wars with this next generation, have a film release that flops, and then make an incredible show that these kids really grow up with. And then, in 10, 20 years, they're going to think, this era is a masterpiece. I think that if there's one way to fix the sequels, I think you should do it with those characters that have already been established. Just don't shy away from it. Just embrace the hate and run with it. Let it flow through you. Let it. I'm sounding a little Sith here, but bring back Resistance.
No, I love when a show can make a character maybe that we didn't like right away more lovable. So I have not seen Resistance, so I don't know much about it, but it looks like KG is in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
Same boat. I've not seen it, so I'm going to say milk toast because none of my feathers are ruffled because I don't know what it is. It's not a personal attack. It's just ignorance. Amanda?
Same.
All right.
You fool! Your take is milk toast.
I gotta say, I really just don't feel like updating those sound clips. They're just like did them forever ago, and they're just reliable. Okay, so I did some digging to see what other Star Wars projects are coming up after this because like most Star Wars is, especially the shows, they're just not great. They're fine, but not great. And it appears we have the Skeleton Crew, which is presumed to come out this year at some point. Andor season 2, probably 2025. Ahsoka. Now that's it. That as far as like we know of things that are for sure coming out. Everything else that's in development, we have Ahsoka season 2, Jon Favreau's It's Mando and Grogu movie, which I did learn is different than Dave Filoni's Mandoverse New Republic movie.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, so we're getting 2 Mando movies. So I guess we can assume the Mandalorian show is probably done. And it's going to go into the Mando Grogu movie and then the Mandoverse New Republic movie, the Avengers of the Mandalorian, which, hey, I mean, I'm excited for anyway. You have Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, and then you have Shireen Obaid Chinoy's New Jedi Order movie. So outside of Ahsoka, as far as we know, there's a bunch of other things, status unknown, like Lando and other projects. It seems that Star Wars is most certainly finally taking a break from TV and moving right back into film. And they're gonna roll they're gonna roll the dice. They've listened to the fans. They know we're tired of it, and the fans are just lethargic, and they're gonna try to go back to cinema. Which, you know what? After all the hate I've been giving Star Wars, I want to give them props and say they are making the right decision, getting us off the couch and back into the theater, because Lord knows they cannot write a TV show. And now they know it, and they're going to try to get back into cinema. And I think it's going to mildly, mind you, like it's not going to be great. It's going to be like Godzilla vs. Kong. It's not going to be great, but it's going to mildly save Star Wars and get people excited again, because it's going to turn what made Star Wars special more often than not wasn't the story. It was the event. It was waiting outside the theater and getting rained on and getting your friends and talking about it when it released. And, everyone has these moments like when I saw The Force Awakens. So these are the things that help make Star Wars special. It's the creating of community. No, like I hate this whole like, all right, so like I waited until 3 a.m. and then I watched it, and now I'm like have to talk about it before everybody else. So I made this video at like 3:49 a.m. and I'm talking about it and I'm beating everyone to it and I'm live streaming our reactions to it. I'm like, this is not how I grew up loving Star Wars. And I don't care if I'm gatekeeping. I enjoyed having an event to go to with friends, my parents, whatever. That's what I loved with Star Wars. And it seems like that's what's coming back. And I'm good with it. I think it's going to help save the IP.
So the hot take is that the movies are going to save the IP?
Yeah, the movies are going to save a tanking IP.
I think they could, but they could also be really bad. And I think with shows like Andor and like the first couple seasons of Mandalorian definitely prove that they're more than capable of making a good TV show. But I don't know. Every show is just so different. It's hard to kind of generalize it for me.
But yeah, I definitely wish that this show was a film.
How would it change some things?
I think I'm going to agree with you, because I think, the team has been struggling with trying to fill in so much information.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'll say, like, I think it's more than I forgot. I didn't get the right phrase for it. It's past time for a film. We're overdue for a film, I
yeah.
think. Like, we absolutely do need that kind of big event to really keep the fan base engaged. And
Yeah.
but they could also, I'm just like not excited for Mando and Grogu, and like most of the storylines that they've got going in that era for me I've already flopped, and that they these things would be better done in animation, and they can be better done in TV. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I think that it's not
Ooh.
necessarily gonna save it. I think it has the potential to do good, I guess, but like,
Yes.
but maybe
But as
not.
it currently stands, I do hold the majority on these three people on this call, or with the three people on this call. So I've gotten this. I've gotten
Okay.
this for today. But the reality is, for us, this show, there's a reality. We've been doing this show for a minute. What, Amanda? What do you got to say?
I was going to
Raise
say,
your hand.
you may have forgotten that we even set up to do a Acolyte bingo at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I did
And
remember that, and I just thought we left
and
it.
I
I
was
was thinking
just
about that
glancing at
today.
it. Yeah, I was just glancing at it to see what we got here, and I don't have controls to be able to share it, but the ones that we did get were Yoda, Plagueis, new color lightsaber. Do we count orange?
Reddish bluish at the same time is kind of new. Yeah.
Yeah, something.
We had Secret Twin, which sure, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Plo Koon.
No, we did not get Plo Koon.
Oh, that's right.
That was
We
a
did
different
not.
Jedi.
Yeah, we have new cute creature. I guess if we want to give that to Basil.
I'll give him cute. I'll give him cute. All right.
Family drama.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote OG Sith War lore, which we didn't get. We didn't get a Senate scene. Master Soul dies. We got that one. No Guardian of the Wills. And an unexpected turn to the dark side. Ultimately, no bingo, but a couple in there that we were surprised to get.
Yeah, I mean, especially after Leslie Headland said explicitly Yoda wasn't going to be in the show.
So now we know we can't trust her with Octo. Like, she's a liar.
Yeah,
She's lost all credibility. That woman has no integrity.
Just like the Jedi.
Whatsoever. Just saying whatever's convenient in the moment to keep us at bay. But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to keep our listeners at bay. We have done 138 episodes of this show, and it has been such a ride. I mean, we remember when we not too long ago, 38 episodes ago, we did our 100th episode. And let me tell you, 69% of podcasts don't make it outside of 10. And we're at 138. The show has changed so much. I mean, we all started virtually. We started with the movies, and we jumped right into the Book of Boba Fett. It was Christian, Amanda, myself, and Charlie at the time. And then Charlie, after the Book of Boba Fett, dipped, and because we had him for a little bit there, wanted to do that show with us. Then we got Tim, who was going to start doing the Bad Batch. And then Tim left. And around that time, then it moved to just Amanda, Christian, and I. But we started up a studio. And that studio, without going into a ton of detail, it changed our lives for better or worse. I think all of at least minorly, our careers were impacted, but on a really fun scale as well. It got us all the way out to London. We went to Star Wars Celebration, met Hayden Christensen, and there was so many cool things that we got to experience with our families because of this podcast. And then time went on, and we were having a lot of fun doing our virtual or in-person thing. And then Christian was getting ready to sadly depart the show, which was I had tears. I was so sad. And I remember I had to fly to Austin for a work trip, and this guy named Brian, my Uber driver, picked me up and started talking Star Wars. And I'm like, oh, this guy knows a lot. You want to come on as a guest? He came on as a guest, impressed, and just never left. And he is the longest running guest we've had. And then for this season, we had some special guest hosts where we had Darth Chaco, we had Luke, we had Alanis from Podwans and Sith Faced and Diet. so many amazing. We used to have, like, especially when we were in the studio, we were bringing in awesome guests all of the time. With that said, the show is going to be changing a little bit. We've got some more again, as it continues to evolve, as we grow older and things evolve. We are going to be moving to a less frequent cadence. We're still coming on next week, but we're not going to be every week after that. More updates to come. We're still going to be doing all Star Wars. We're still going to be ranking and reviewing. But with the slowdown in Star Wars content, we're going to be taking a little, maybe at least bi-weekly. We're going to be releasing a lot of content still, but the main Duel of the Ranks podcast is not going to be the weekly show anymore. There's more stuff to come. Not going to update you with all of that today. More to talk about next week. But we have a major announcement. We are adding not a guest host. We are adding a full-time host. This is the end of the podcast for today, y'all. If you have any other thoughts, let them out now. Otherwise, let's hit it. Oh, sorry. This is I have one more thought. This is Duel of the Ranks if it were made in 2007.
What makes Duel of the Ranks so special? The reviews, the hot takes, the numbers, or how about the unique perspectives?